program. So as you all know, our vision has changed for this year, or both vision and mission have been modified. So really making sure we are all driving in the same message with our scholars. So we are elevating people's growth mindset so we all achieve higher ambitions. Okay, so is there anyone out there that can kind of give, just even this past week where you felt like you really did that with a scholar? Is there anyone out there? Just you can give a 10 seconds to see if there's anyone. If not, we'll move on. Okay. So then our playbook. So remember, we're inspiring Y scholars to take charge of their academic performance. We're engaging Y scholars and families to prepare for college readiness. And then we're coaching scholars to become responsible decision makers and communicators. Okay, so I want you all to kind of try to think about, and you all just ran through your first sessions this past week. Okay, where are you hitting that in your session? Where can you possibly do that in your sections? Does that make sense? So let's say if I'm running study group, how can I utilize study group to inspire scholars to take charge of the academic performance? How can I use study group as a way to engage scholars and their families to prepare for college readiness? And how can I use kind of my interactions with scholars to help them become better decision makers and communicators? Okay, does everybody understand my request here? Okay. And then I'll just kind of randomly pick. So I'll just give an example. If for inspiring scholars to take charge of academic performance. So one way I can do that is give them some tips. Let's say if I'm running study group, maybe I can start something like a tip of the week. Here's something that, based on my own way of studying, this is my tip of the week for you all in terms of how I study. It's something for you to try. It doesn't mean that you have to do it, but it's just out there and it's worked for me. Okay, I'm sharing. So both I'm sharing a bit about myself and I'm also taking care of that first part. Okay. So I'll randomly pick a person for the second one. So engaging scholars and families to prepare for college readiness. So Dom, what do you think? How can you leverage your role to do that?
I think in seminar, if I was, for example, giving like a presentation on financial aid, one thing to do to like engage families would probably be like assigning the scholars to maybe have like a sit down with their families to talk about what they need for FAFSA, for example, to get them involved, or even inviting the families to participate in that seminar if they are free to like sit down with their scholars.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like the idea. So coming up with a simple small assignment where you're asking scholars to go home and talk to their parents. It could be something that they learn or engaging in the topic. So that's a really awesome way to do that. Okay, so we don't always have to rely on a worksheet. It could be something more informal like that. Okay. On your end, what do you think? Where is there an opportunity for you to be coaching scholars to become more responsible decision makers and communicators?
So what I've witnessed throughout like this past week is that when students weren't when Y scholars weren't were coming in late or missing their study group, a lot of them it was because they like didn't write it down or they didn't have it in the calendar. So I could coach them in helping them create a system or giving me advice on a system that might work for me, or like Y scholars can share one another systems that work for them, and overall at the end they choose the best one that they think would work for them, and then just communicating with us about why they missed the study group and how we can help them.
Exactly. Great. So any kind of decisions that they need to be making, help them guide through that process. And then, so yeah, if it's like calendaring things, putting it in their phones, setting up alarms, you should definitely get them to be aware of those choices and ask them to move forward, especially if they messed up in terms of, forgetting or didn't remember the days and times. Say, well, here's how you can kind of move forward with this. My thing's dead. Hold on. Oh, see it. Okay. So kind of on that note, moving forward, I anticipate you'll probably still be encountering absences, unintentional absences, unintentional tardiness, right? And definitely folks who don't communicate with you ahead of time. And so moving into this, technically it's our third week. So first week were the one-on-one meetings. Second week was this week. So we're going to our third week. I'm going to start asking you all to have these conversations with scholars, and I'm happy to be part of those. So, if you did set those up, officially set them up, then definitely include me in if I can make it. I would love to make it. But if not, if it's like after your session, then really think about these things. So just remember, there's 4 things that you need to be aware of. So competence, do they have the tools and the skills to do what you're asking them to do, right? Right. So when we ask them, show up to my meeting at 3, there's some skills involved with that. There's some organizational skills, there's some planning skills. We just kind of assume like, okay, well, when I say this, you should do this. And yes, in the ideal world, that should be the case, but we know that's not how things are operating, right? So if they are not lacking, if they're lacking those organizational skills to be able to make it to your session, then you utilize our leadership cultural practice, right? Start with yourself and help them figure that piece out. Okay, so that's our very first piece. Then the second piece is, okay, I'm teaching you this new skill. Now I want you to practice it so that you can become more reliable, right? Start showing that you can do this consistently, not just you only do this because I told you to that one time, right? You should really keep doing this so that you don't forget and you'll show up on time, and we can continue earning each other's trust and work together on our mission. Okay. So then something you can also check them on, which is after that, you can also say, look, this really affects our relationship because I need to believe that you are a person of your words. And that's very important to me if we're going to work together. Right? Like how can, and I do this with the new scholars yesterday. I say, hey, how would you feel if I schedule for this meeting, you all showed up on time and I'm nowhere to be found? What would you think about me as the director of the program? And what would you think about the program? Right. And I think you would have your ideas of how ridiculous this program operates if they can't even show up on time. Right. And so it's the same thing from them. It's like, this is a togetherness here. So, when we schedule a meeting and you say, yes, I agree, then the expectation is you'll show up. Okay. And then also getting them to understand, if they say, well, you don't understand how busy I am, and all these things are going on. And you say, yes, I absolutely empathize and I want to figure out how do we make it work. That requires you to let me know. And on top of that, do you understand how much I have to go through? And then you should lay out how much responsibilities you have and things that you're going through and say, hey, I want you to hear my side of things that I'm going through as well, right? So then you're sharing like, look, yes, our lives are all in disarray right now on some level, right? You have your own special challenges, as do I, right? And that doesn't mean we can't get anything done, but it just means we need to be more understanding of the choices that we make. When you choose not to really put these appointments down and make sure you make it on time, it affects me in this way. It means I have to give you calls. Audi's going to make me do two times CSAT. I have to email everybody out. and then I have to reschedule with you. That means I'm spending extra additional time, and I don't even know if Audi will let me do that, right? So really making sure they understand the consequences of those decisions. Okay. And so this is kind of the starting point in terms of, I think one of the trainings that's not set up yet is communicating with compassion, is getting people to understand people's point of view, but also how to understand your point of view. And I think if we are able to do that consistently over time, I think we can really shift the culture of this program from where it used to be. So I think I've been kind of seeing it as, in the past couple of years, it's kind of evolved into this thing where we're helping students. So it's a very unidirectional kind of work. Whereas I'm saying, moving forward, especially starting this year, it needs to be kind of like a two-way street, right? We need to be working together, and because we have a common mission. Okay. So I'll pause there. Just this will come up over and over again with you, with the scholars, and you with me as well. Okay. Any kind of questions out there, or anything I can clarify with all that I just said? America, go for it.
So I get the content of it. My question is more technical. You're asking us to schedule a time to have these conversations with our Y scholars?
Yeah, I think you're not quite there yet, because I think we're looking at how severe it is, right? So like right now, it'll be a little bit more, it'll be less formal, it'll be more informal. Like right after session, you're like, hey, I know you can't talk to you about your tardiness today. Can I know what happened? And then you should also let on, like, hey, look, this is what happens when you show up late and you don't tell me ahead of time, right? Another thing I think I would tell the scholars is, look, that, because like some of the scholars this week, they couldn't make up sessions, right? Because they didn't let you know ahead of time. So that's another thing to let them know. Like, look, you probably could have gotten credit for this week and avoided the incomplete if you had just communicated with me earlier. I could have taken that time to reschedule you in another session, and you could have avoided an incomplete week, right? So let them know all the the choices that they made and how that affects them and you. And so having that kind of conversation, rather than just saying, oh, you had a unverified this week, you have an incomplete, so just letting you know there's 3 more incompletes before you're out. And I think that's how we were doing it. And I don't think that model was necessarily the best way. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Nope, sorry. Before I continue, any other questions or thoughts or confusions? And like I said, we'll explore more, but if you need to be having those conversations, I think the way I'm seeing it is, anyone this past week, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 that had missed 2 times. Like if they literally missed 2 times, they had to reschedule 2 times. I think we'll, if they do that again this week, we'll probably want to have that conversation with them and the family. Okay. So even if they made it up, they rescheduled, because after you have to do CSET with them, I think it's getting to understand, like, yes, you rescheduled, but we can't reschedule you every single week. That's not how we can operate it smoothly here. Okay. So as you know, if you were running sessions, I totally switched it up last minute. So I totally forgot that, look, we got to set ground rules, and that's very important. So making sure, now that you have your own chart, you should make it a little bit nicer looking. I know you were just kind of typing in notes, so make it a little bit spiffier looking, and then make sure you start with that before you start your session every single week. Okay, you must do that as a facilitator. Yes, America.
So one of our non-negotiables was to have our cameras on.
Yes.
One of the Y scholars asked me, like, what if our camera isn't working, or like something's going on? Is it okay if I just tell you and have my camera off? That's fine. Okay. Yes,
I think if they let you know, but then I would keep checking in with them every week. It's like, hey, I just want to check in. Is your camera still, or
right.
is it feeling a little better this week? You can for real. Okay. And then when we say cameras on, we mean with faces too. Otherwise, what's the point? Okay.
Audi?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the thing that you just said we have to have? I am having some bad brain fog today. I've lost
No
that.
problem. So I was saying that you should have your group learning agreements at the first, as like your first slide every single week, right? Before you start your meeting, obviously you take your attendance. You kind of say, hi, everybody, thanks for coming. All right, let's start off by going over our group agreements. And I think for these first 2-3 weeks, after you create this, you should kind of go over line by line. But after a while, after they get sick and tired of you saying the same thing over and over, which is fine, you want them to be sick of it, okay? Then you can say, okay, just take a look at this. Anything that we need to change or add, and very likely you will get no responses on that. So then you'll continue, right? But then the moment your group starts going against agreements, that's when you go back to, okay, let's go through this line by line at the beginning every single week. So it's like kind of just bringing it up and reminding everybody, okay? So the next 2 weeks, we are, for seminars, you are going to be analyzing course planners. I'm upgrading our course planners to include areas for, college courses, because some of our scholars are doing dual enrollment and taking community college courses. So I will be adding that this weekend. So if, I might ask one of you to help me out with that. And then for study groups, you are going to help them with learning how to calendar. So ideally, we're using Google Calendar. Okay, so it is, so it's a start, and you should have them schedule in at least 2 appointments, and they should be repeating appointments. Okay, so that will be kind of like the test. Okay. And then this one, we need to figure out how to develop some workshops for October. I'll revisit this later on near the end of the meeting. Okay. And then in terms of reminders, so I don't know if you saw, I was sending out reminders for you on Slack, right? Hey, you got a session today, right? And I don't know if you noticed that I didn't put in the time. I did that on purpose because I want them to ask if they didn't check what time it is, so then I can verify with them, and I tell them, go save that email that I sent you. Or if you didn't get the email, then I'll send you the email so you'll have it, okay? So I'll send out another round of reminders this week, so 1 more week. After that, they should be setting up reminders themselves. So there is a way to set up reminders in Slack through the robots, and they'll do it for you easily. Okay, and then I'll have like the copy and paste code that they should do, and that'll make it a lot easier on their end. Okay. And it's the same thing. It's just kind of graduate. If they, so by not this week, but the following week, we'll ask them, hey, how many of you still want kind of weekly reminders? And if they say yes, we'll keep offering those folks reminders. And then at some point, we'll kind of start stepping back and be like, okay, is there something that you can do on your end to remind yourself so that I don't have to do this every week? Okay, kind of start leaving that hand holding. Okay, so I think I want to review this at least for 2 more weeks. So 2 times CSAT, let's really make sure we're on the same page. So number 1 is blank there, which is what? What are we doing for number 1? America.
Know what you want.
Yes, exactly. Know what you want to accomplish with your communication. Otherwise, you're just blabbering on, right? Okay, so is it I want to reschedule with this scholar, and I'm going to ask the scholar to put in their calendar? Okay, make sure you have that ready to go to make that request. So remember, just know what you want. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want, okay? Because life isn't fair, people, okay? So know what you want so that at least you know the starting point to your negotiation with the scholar, right? So then you're going to call the parties. So this is assume you couldn't talk to the student live, right? So you're going to call the parties. You can leave voicemails. You can document calls on Airtable. You can send a Slack. So you should always follow with a Slack. Okay. And then email confirmations are always needed. Does that make sense? So I want to be able to keep track of all those. So then later on, when you are saying, hey, Audi, I would like to do a family meeting with this person, I can see, did we cover what we said we were going to do? This is literally what I told the families during orientation. I say, hey, family, we're not going to call you 20 bajillion times anymore like the previous years. We're going to do this exactly, right? So again, this is kind of my integrity, right? I'm keeping my word. This is what we said we're going to do, and this is my staff doing it. And so if they don't do it, then it's on my staff's end and on my end as well. I'm not keeping my staff responsible. Okay. Texting, I think we're avoiding text for now. Let's just make sure we can at least do C through E. Okay. And then make sure you repeat with a deadline. Okay, if needed. Yes, Nat.
I just have a question about the email confirmations. It does say there with all changes, but I want to confirm, like, if I was just having a conversation with a student about being a little bit late and I called them and did the 2 CSAT through that, would I want to send an email like saying thank you for having this chat with me or something, or do I not need to do that?
No, so its changes will be like like for tardies, if you found out the reason, you don't need to send an email to confirm the reason, right? You do need to send an email if you rescheduled them or they're about to get unverified. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
So basically you change from being able to get credit for the group to you do not get credit for the group. So that's a change. So you got to let them know, or let them and parents. That's really the key here. Remember, that second part of the playbook, right? We're engaging parents. This is one of the other things that we're doing other than the webinar series. This is the other part of engaging parents. We're showing them, look, your child is late, is tardy, or is absent, and they're forgetting, right? So I'm keeping you in the loop so that when we have that family meeting, you're not surprised, right? Remember, we don't want like surprises. And that's usually part of the reason when our family meetings go into like fight mode is when the parents are like, you never told me any of this. And so now we're saying, hey, we're letting you know every step along the way so there are no surprises for you. Okay. Okay, inputting hours. So time station. So session type, please make sure, I think I saw there was an error, or I think somebody may have doubled up in terms of categorizing study group as Be College Ready. So if you haven't checked yet today, please go in and fix that. Okay. So time in, time out, and the date. Now, I know in my tutorial video, if you saw it, if you watched it, I said that the time in, time out doesn't matter. I've come to realize that was a dumb move. It could matter because I was under the impression that everyone had different seminars and study groups. And I know that there are a couple that are doubling up on the same day. So that could affect each other, right? You can't clock in while someone's already clocked in the same hour. So there's going to be a problem there. So please clock in the same time that matches your session time. Okay. And the date definitely matters for sure. Okay. And then please deduct time for tardy. So if they came in late by, here's what I would say. I would give like a 3 to 5 minute leeway for Zoom/internet troubles or slow computer issues. So we'll give that. After the 5 minute mark, I think you should mark them for however much time they're late. So that includes a 5 minutes. So if they came in at 4:10, even though you gave them a 5 minute freebie period, still mark them down for 10 minutes late because they were 10 minutes late, right? So then after a while, we can say, look, I know you're having these trouble, but then that just means maybe you should log on 10 minutes before, something like that. Okay. And then make sure to at least write it in the notes, because I don't know when you're going to do the next part and I don't want you to forget, right? So after the session, you should check in with them to ask them why they're late. So make sure to hold hold scholars after class and check in with them, see what happened. And you should write in the notes section. Okay. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch the video. It's all there. America.
I see on 2B it says absence as well in the comments. So if a scholar didn't attend, am I still inputting a manual entry, like a manual time, and then
Nope.
deduct everything? Or
Two is Airtable.
Oh,
You should be looking at 1. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, which I'm going to talk about next. Yeah. Okay, so then the new thing, I haven't created a video for this, I'll create a video, is the class attendance on Airtable, which I think most of you, if you were coaches last year, you'll be familiar with. So in the same workspace on Airtable as the rosters, you should see these purple ones. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, so you got, these are the rosters. That's why they have the people icon. You see how tactful I am with this. For schedules, you got the clock icon there, the purple ones. So you have the 3 classes. So we're going to open up, let's say, the 2021 class. I don't know why I did that. It's already open. It's right here. Okay. So the way to think about it is this. TimeStation is for tracking hours. Okay. But that doesn't really matter now in the program, the way that we operate program, right? Because the way we operate program is if they showed up. It's as simple as that. So seminar, you have choices. You always have 4 choices. It's yes, verified, no meeting, or unverified. Okay, so let's try this. I got sick, not with COVID, but I ate something bad and I was having a rough day. And so I couldn't meet with my Scholar America. Which one would I categorize that as? Anaí, what do you think? You're muted.
Did they let you know beforehand?
No. I was the one that got sick. I'm the counselor.
Oh, no meeting?
No meeting, exactly. Okay. All right. Now, the Y Scholars tells you, hey, my mom pulled me away to go work with her last minute. What would you put that as, Dominic?
If I was able to confirm with the mom, verified, if not unverified.
Okay. Cool. And then yes, obviously, if they showed. Okay, unverified is things like, oh, I totally forgot. Okay. I think this also came up this past week. We have some scholars that were trying to multitask, right? Like they were hanging with friends, or there was one. It was at the dentist's office and trying to listen in, and I appreciate the effort or the attempt to try to participate, but that is not the kind of showing up that we talk about here. Okay, when we say show up, it's our commitment, which is leave the outside so you can fully engage with us, right? So you can strengthen your why. So strengthening your why, you can't do that if you're half distracted by your friends or your teeth is being operated on. That doesn't quite work. Okay. So in that case, I would just tell the scholar, hey, look, I'm going to say you're not going to be able to get credit for today. I'm going to ask you, I'll contact you later on to talk more, to reschedule if possible. If not, then you may have to take on verify for this week, but just so that next week plan ahead so this doesn't happen again. Okay. Okay, so obviously SEM is seminar, study is study group, coaching is if they show up to your one-on-one coaching. Okay. And this is by weeks. Okay. Tutoring, we don't have to worry about that. The tutors will operate. Oh, actually, no. I'll handle that. Don't worry about that. Okay. All right. So essentially, if you can see this, so Adrian came to seminar this week. There was, and then Adrian came to study group. There was no coaching this week. So then it's a complete. Akram was verified. He had to go work for his parents, but then he forgot study group and couldn't make it up, and there was no coaching. So then we're showing complete. Okay, should be very straightforward. Okay, so here's the thing that you do need to document on here, because this is how I'm going to see if a scholar is getting incomplete weeks and the reason why. So you got to document every time they're late for something, talk about, so that I can see a pattern. Okay, so as you can see, like on the sides, there's different views. So one, it's by month. So these are for the month of September. Make sure you're on the right week. I cannot emphasize that enough. Make sure you check here, you're on the right week. So for this week, you should be putting stuff for the 21st, okay? So then if they're late, make sure you put in here's what I'll do. I'll put your name so that we know that you're the one commenting. And you would just put Adrian was late to seminar due to falling on his face. Oh my God. Okay. So that I will start seeing any comments about, tardiness or absences. And then when if we have to meet with the parents, we can just show them the record that's based on the scholar. So then I'll just show them this, Adrian's record. Look there, these are all the notes, the tardies. Every week there's tardies. Okay, we need to really talk about this. Okay. Cool. Any questions about this, or any kind of situations with scholars that you may not quite know how to identify? Anai, go for it.
Yeah, so we have Makira who let us know on Slack that she was confused, but she still count as unverified for the week. Or would you verify her position?
If they are confused, we'll give them a pass for this week. Okay. If they truly it seems like they didn't know, and I think in her case, yes, she probably could have done more on her end to be less confused, but she did sound like she didn't know. So, I'll accept that, right? So put it as a verified. I think the unverified folks for this week will be the ones that they skipped, and then they didn't say anything at all, but they did show up for other stuff. So it's like they do know, they did get an email and they were aware. Okay.
I have a question as well.
Oh, Nat first and then Elaine.
Okay. Just in general, I'm not 100% on the difference between verified and unverified. Like, is verified, like you have to verify with a parent?
Yeah, so great question. I think here's what I would say. I would start by giving them the benefit of the doubt. So as much as I want to be like, let's go to parents and verify everything, I think for now, let's try with giving them some trust, right? You don't want to start a relationship on ground zero and say, okay, let's earn trust, right? It should be, starting with a pretty decent level of trust and then see where it goes. It keeps going upward, or is it really dropping really fast, right? So, and that's one way to show is like, hey, I believe in this relationship. I'm giving you the trust that you're telling me the truth. So, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to document it. So that's why you have to document these reasons. If every single week this scholar is telling you, oh, I got a dentist appointment, it's like, what's going on here, right? Maybe by the second one, you should talk to the parents, say, hey, this is the second week your child has scheduled a dentist appointment for your child, and directly conflicts with this thing. And so there's two responses, right? It's either, oh, I'm sorry, I'll really try to make sure not to do that in the future, or what, right? what dentist appointment, then you'll know, right? And then you'll figure out how to have your conversations there. Okay. Does that answer your question, Nat? Excellent. Elaine?
Did you want us to go back for last week's or this week's attendance? Because I only did time station for this week. And if so, is there a deadline for getting that done?
Yeah. So if it's okay, if you can get that done by end of Sunday, if possible. But if not, maybe Monday before all the sessions start. So maybe by Monday by noon, if that's possible.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So two things I will actually like though. So I would like not only this week, but also last week with the one-on-one meetings, because I know there were some folks who either had to reschedule one-on-ones meetings with you or were late as well. I would like to see that as well. So then again, I want to catch these issues early on and then start having conversations with those scholars and potentially even the families. Okay.
And under what column does that go? Coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, put it under coaching. Exactly.
All right, sounds good.
Was there a hand? Was that Anai?
Yeah, so is the deadline going to be for every week? Would it be Monday or for every week? The deadline for each week?
I think every week. Well, no, deadline should be every week, should be at the end of the day. You should mark these things in at the end of the day. It should take, if you're doing it consistently, it should take, when you finish your session, it should take like less than 5 minutes. Right? You're just clicking yes, no, and then putting in the hours, which is just everybody together at the same time, right? So it really shouldn't take you that long. Okay. If it is, then please let me know so I can see what I'm not seeing here. Okay, I'm not doubting you. The way I'm envisioning it, it shouldn't take that long. Okay. Cool. So that's our attendance. It should look a lot cleaner. No Y Scholar should be asking you anymore. How many hours do I have to do this week? How many more hours do I have to do this week? That should take care of that headache. Okay. Great. Anything else before we move on? Okay. Uh-oh. Sorry about this. Transitioning back. Okay, so talking about that, let's start building towards some consistency here. Okay, I know things are really crazy. Okay. So I think earlier on, before your very first session for the week, right? So obviously you have to make plans for it. So I think you should dedicate at least half an hour to an hour to go over the curriculum. You should know what you're going to say. Okay, now I understand, with everything, how messy are the way I'm running things right now. That is, you don't always have that luxury. So I completely understand if you've going underprepared, right? But do the best you can. You should schedule out at least half an hour, at the very, very least. I think half an hour. Read through the agenda, read through the plans, know what you need to prepare for, so that when you go in, you're not like clicking 20 different things, trying to figure out where everything is and what you need to do. Okay. So then after that, then there are things that in the other days, this is kind of what I would propose. You should create like a work routine. Very first thing, you should check Slack announcements and updates, and you should take action. So don't just read it and be like, oh, that sounds great. How do you write beautifully? Your prose is beautiful, and I appreciate that, but I'd rather you actually do something about it, right? So if I ask you, hey, you should make sure you do this on your attendance sheets, then make sure you go in and do that. Okay, I'm not just doing this just for fun. Okay, and then make sure you acknowledge it. So in this past week, we've only had one announcement where everybody acknowledged, right? So by the meeting, by today, I should have seen everybody acknowledge all the previous announcements at this point, okay? So I understand, again, new process, trying to get used to the fact. So I'll keep giving you some reminders to kind of push you to remember but let's really work hard to kind of work with the system. Okay. Next is you should check your YSP email. There may be some emails, not likely, not usually, but you may have a Y Scholar sending you an email, or a parent that's responding to your absence or schedule change email, right? So then you should respond and take action there. Okay, now obviously that also the taking action depends on time, right? If you're running short on time, you have to go run to session, then yeah, just make sure you're planning to take action later on down the line. Okay. Another thing you should do, right now I'm doing that for you, but at some point I'm going to start moving away as well. You are responsible for checking your Scholars Slack messages. So I will go down your list and check to make sure to see if they mentioned anything, because I think I'm doing pretty good in terms of responding to everybody. But there have been definitely some that I missed because I'm sitting in a session, I'm participating, so I can't answer those if they did send a message during that time. So it's up to us all. We're all checking the Slack level messages so that you are updated on where they're at. If they are asking for a reschedule, they're like, "Can you remind me this again?" Then someone is addressing that. And when I say someone, that means if you actually have the knowledge, right? So don't just be like, "Oh, thanks for asking this question," and then that's it. I appreciate you trying to do the class shout out, but that doesn't take care of the question, right? Imagine if Amazon customer service just says, "Oh, thank you so much for asking this question," and then they leave you hanging like that. You will probably not shop with them again, right? Okay. And then you should plan for your session. You should prepare for your session. So prepare means like having the tabs out. So definitely have the journal tabs ready to go. I know a lot of you utilized that this past week. So keep using that. Okay, and for journal, what I would do is if you're preparing for this week, I would actually create a new page. So I simply go to the beginning and do Control Enter, and that will create a brand new page. That will kick a brand new page over. Okay. And so basically it'll be like an archive. All the old pages keep sliding down. The first page is like a brand new page. Does that make sense? Does anybody need me to demonstrate? Just give me just one raised hand and I'll show it. All right. Sounds like you are capable. Zoom, I would like to ask, I mean, ideally 15, but I don't know if you may have that luxury, but I would like to make sure that you are in 10 minutes before. Okay, so that you are setting up, because I know some of you are still trying to figure out how to do your setup with Zoom, and some of you may be running into issues. So let's really take care of that 10 minutes before, not during the session. Okay. On that note, if you are in Berkeley, I just realized this the other day, you are more than welcome to borrow like a Chromebook from us and take it home. I mean, no one's using it. So if you want like a 4 laptop system, by all means, go for it. Okay. All right. And then post session, immediately after your session, you make sure you're doing check-ins with scholars who were tardy, or you had some sort of you had some sort of issue with their participation, right? They were too quiet, they were way too loud, they didn't have their cameras on the entire time, they didn't talk to you, and they didn't respond when you asked them. All those things are issues. Okay. And then definitely then do the CSET absences. So call home immediately and say, "Hey, what happened? You know, we missed you today at group," Slack, and then email. And then we're coming close to finishing the day, your shift. You should then input the hours and notes onto TimeStation Airtable. You should check announcements. You know, sometimes I try to do a morning announcement and an afternoon or late afternoon announcement. So if you're still around, then if you can check it, great. If not, then I'll expect you the next time your shift starts, you should definitely emoji that, right, and read it. And then end your shift with documenting your hours on timesheet. Okay, so that's my recommended kind of your work shift in terms of how you should structure it. That's just a recommendation. Obviously, you can, twist it however you want. So what this does mean is I should see emails coming through if people are absent, right? And you're rescheduling them or saying, hey, unfortunately, this will be on a verified absence. So you're not, during the week, you're not responsible for sending out any messages around, hey, this will be an incomplete week. Does that make sense? You're just saying this is an unverified absence. And then at the end of the week, over the weekend and maybe Monday morning, I'll go through it and I'll send out the incomplete, or I'll have someone send it out. Like, hey, you just to let you know, you because of this absence, you got this incomplete week. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot more communications this year. It is probably a little bit more work on our end, but I think we're just sending the message like, look, we want everybody to be on the same page here. Cool. I think just reminders from the last meeting. Words matter. Y scholars versus student. As you can see, I'm getting there. I think I'm at the 90th percentile there. There's still little slip ups here and there. Most of you have not DM'd in the grade level Slack, so that's great. Let's make sure we keep it to one place. I cannot emphasize this more. Please over communicate with me. Okay, it helps me to know. If you just let me know what you're doing, what you're working on, where you're at with things, it really helps me. It actually really makes my life a lot easier, even though you're like bothering me, because I actually get to know what you're doing. And that makes it a lot easier than me saying, oh, hey, can we check into so I can learn about what's going on with you? Okay. And also it minimizes any surprises, right? Typically I expect surprises, but I think right now is not the time for me to be surprised about where you're at with work or, oh, you forgot this and that and all of this. Okay. Lastly, if you have input and feedback, I absolutely welcome them. I know things aren't perfect, and they're definitely going to be far from perfect for a while. So anything I can provide really helps me out. And then remember, like this is the time. This is what I'm saying, how you can really kind of boost up our trust between us, which is figure out ways to master your abilities, right? You're saying, hey, this is what I did, right? This keep me updated. Like I watched this video and this is what I did, and I thought this really worked out. So it shows me that you're actually practicing, showing up on time and following through, obviously. And then just even being understanding if you did forget things, right? Saying, "Oh, I understand this probably really inconveniences you on some level." Okay, that kind of stuff really helps, right? Your self-awareness and awareness of other people. That really is a great way to build up trust. Okay. All right, that is it. I am about to hop to a family, one of those tough family meetings. So any questions before we conclude for today?
I have a question about the study group agenda for this coming week.
Yes.
Are you going to do what you did last week and plan it basically again yourself, or are we supposed to take more charge in doing that this week, just based on what you've told us in this meeting?
Yeah. So I think I mean, if you want to plan with me, I would love that. So Sunday will be the time. So I'll put out my availability on Sunday. So I think I told you I'll say this to the end. So this Sunday I have interviews until 4. And after that is just planning session. So if you want to hop on with me and join me for mapping out a study group and seminar, I would love to have your ideas and thoughts. It really helps quite a bit. And then also if we can start brainstorming some ideas, and I think that one's more exciting for me, which is mapping out ideas for growth mindset workshops. I would really like to map out a good 6 to 8 workshops. Okay, so especially on your end, if there are things that you would like to lead, like America, if you want to lead like a financial literacy workshop, you can definitely do that. That's definitely falls under growth mindset. Okay. So 4 o'clock and later, you can send me a message, but I'll also put out a message as well. All right. Anything else? Okay, people, I know I kind of rushed through this one. Appreciate your time, support. I'm grateful for you sticking with me through the tough parts right now. But I definitely see us moving up and up. Okay. All right. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Just kidding. I know it's Friday. All right. And hopefully would love to see some of you on Sunday if possible. Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You too.